Welcome back to Film Feels. This is the next installment into the Infinity Saga 4K Ultra HD review. I am now on Iron Man 2, starring Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Mickey Rourke, Jon Favreau, Gregg, Samuel L. Jackson, Elon Musk, and Sam Rockwell. The film was directed by Jon Favreau, written by Justin Theroux, produced by Kevin Feige, and the cinematography again was by Matthew Libatique. So first off, because Matthew Libatique is back again, it helps ground us into the same kind of visual aesthetic that we're used to. So this became pretty much the imagery that we would define the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like popping colors and as to what we're normally used to in reality. The film just looked great in 4K. It looked amazing. It's not like a visually gorgeous movie like Gwyneth or Children of Men or anything like that. It still just has this very kind of naturalistic look, but there's still intricacies within the details of people's faces and hair and the backgrounds and the VFX that you don't normally get to see, and it looks great. It just fits that kind of technology. There was a strange frame drop in the Vanco montage at the very beginning when he's like screaming with his dad and getting down to making his whips and so on. I don't know if that was the movie or whether or not that was actually just the Demon Souls playing in the background on my PS5 causing it to spaz out a bit. I don't know if anyone would be able to say whether or not they've had such a situation happen with 4K movie running on their PS5. I'd be interested to know. First off, I feel like Ivan Vanko is a pretty underrated character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Definitely they didn't give Mickey Rourke enough time to shine on screen. I think that's one of the major complaints about this film. I heard that he actually did 3 months of research in a Russian prison, learning the accent, learning ways to deepen the character more. And I liked it. I like his accent. It's quite convincing. I've read that some people find that it's actually quite a decent accent when he's not actually speaking Russian, but when he does speak Russian, it's a bit off. But still, to a layman like me, I didn't really. It didn't bring me out of the film at all. I think he's intense, very intimidating, and then sometimes he brings a little bit of levity to the role, which is quite cool. But ultimately, really, really great. When Rourke did all this research and did all of this extra training and trying to add complexity to the character, apparently he took it to Justin Theroux, the writer, and to Jon Favreau, and they had no problems with it. But the studio executives at the time were just not into it, and most of the stuff that he filled, the extra work that he put into it, just got thrown away, which is a real shame because it would have been quite interesting to see what he was going to do to it. It could have been really bad, but we'll never know now. But at that time, Marvel Studios was a very different place. It was a job of sorts with all different types of studios. You had Paramount, you had Universal, you had all these other places getting involved and meddling, and also with their strict budget. They just wanted to go probably with what was safe and didn't want to take any chances. But as you can see later on, they definitely got to take all those chances that they wanted to, and much more interesting stuff came from when they had earned their confidence, they earned their respect. I do think it's a shame that he was killed as well, because he's just an interesting character. He was ferocious, but he's also technically, he was almost an intellectual equal to Tony, which is pretty rare, to be honest. I mean, now we have Shuri, but back then there wasn't anyone, and he was just, one day I'm going to drink vodka, and the next day I'm going to be making an arc reactor from scratch. It's crazy. Another great character is Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer. His detached, fake tanned, cocky CEO persona is so fun and like strangely idiotic while also being kind of threatening in a way, I guess. It was just really fun, and he delivers some of the best monologues in the whole movie. He's just such a funny actor to watch. If you haven't seen it, definitely check out the movie Moon. I'm sure everyone references that movie. Maybe Jojo Rabbit. That's another great one with him in it. But adding to the other people I really enjoyed seeing was Elon Musk. Elon Musk in the movie, just bizarre, considering he was the original archetype that they based Tony Stark on in the real world, which I heard that Downey actually spent some time with him to figure out what it's like to be a CEO and what kind of things he would be doing. It's quite interesting. It's cool to see him there. We also get Don Cheadle as Rhodey. He is War Machine for me. It's Don Cheadle, man. He starts with such a calm professionalism. He seems like, he takes his job very seriously, but not so serious that he can't have a joke or humor himself. And then slowly, as the film starts to go on, he kind of opens up to his own form of deadpan humor, which is, a Tony Stark staple. But definitely, Cheadle is War Machine for me, and he's fantastic the way he riffs with Robert and the stuff that they say together, and how it seems like they genuinely do care about each other, whether it's off screen and on screen. It's fantastic, and it was a good choice in the end. In retrospect, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing his TV show Armor Wars. If you haven't heard about that sounds fantastic. Pretty interested. It's supposed to be also tying into Secret Wars as well. So this movie is generally spoken about as a misstep, one of the weaker movies in the Infinity Saga. I did say last week that I felt like, the Incredible Hulk is the worst of the movies. I don't really hear many people talking about that movie, and I think the reason why is because it's just not really considered as a Marvel movie. On top of that, it's so bad that we kind of just forget about it and move it to one side, and then people seem to pick on this film or Thor the Dark World. I definitely feel like that I enjoy this movie. I enjoy watching this movie. I love the characters' performances. I love some of the moments with the VFX. I mean, that last scene, that just intense ride of VFX is it's fantastic. Maybe it's because it's the first time I've ever seen Iron Man and War Machine together, just going at it. Of course I would have wanted to be longer. Of course I would have wanted that to be like 70% the movie, but it still didn't matter to me because I actually do enjoy seeing Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark and as Iron Man. Like, to me, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark, who is Iron Man. So when I see him on screen, I still feel like I'm seeing Iron Man and Tony Stark at the same time, and I'm not really bothered about seeing him not in his armor. One of the things about Tony Stark is that he's far more vulnerable when he's not in his armor, which means that there's lots more opportunity there for like actual character development. I don't mean like he could get stabbed or shot or something. I mean like literally he's got more to stand in being emotionally compromised. He's going to be around people who actually can level him with the way that they know who he is and so on. And I like that, and it's pretty cool. I'm quite certain if you go into the film and you just want to see the Iron Man in his suit, then obviously it's going to be a bit of a lackluster ride for you. But as we've come acclimated to it, Iron Man and Tony are just such compelling characters of themselves, and I am happy to see, and I thoroughly enjoy seeing him on screen at any time. I've read that some people say that the role where the character slips back into alcoholism again is kind of boring and it's been done. But if you've ever struggled with addiction, relapse is a very big part of recovery. Like, you're going to do it. It's an inevitable part of recovery. And I know what that's like. I know it's hard to break old habits. I know it's hard to get out of addiction. And especially when you're worn down and you're low and you have nothing left to give, relapsing is something it's absolutely common. So seeing Tony go through that is something that, for me was quite comforting, and I could relate to it massively. And obviously him quickly overcoming it is, proof that he is dedicated to being a better person, yet obviously he's still a tortured soul. And then after that scene we get to see that cool part where he's inside the donut just eating Dunkin' Donuts and tells Fury he doesn't want to be part of his super secret boy band. Incidentally, that's what's actually on the 4K box set's sleeve. Just everyone has got a quote, and that's the quote for Iron Man 2. Little things I noticed about this movie is how the character develops in quite subtle ways. Like when he's in Monaco and they're talking to him in French, and you can tell now that he actually has learned more languages, and he's actually got quite a bit of an interest in more languages, which is most likely inspired by the fact that Yeltsin was multilingual, and his broad knowledge and multilingual skills were incredibly useful Tony's time of need when they were back in the cave. So he definitely is paying tribute and respecting that kind of intelligence because it saved his life. If Yeltsin didn't know how to speak like that, he wouldn't be able to buy him enough time to create the Iron Man armor. So that's really cool. I mean, it's a small little snippet. There are so many things like that peppered throughout the entire... It's covered in those kind of things, the Infinity Saga. It's such an interesting and fun thing to do when you go back through these movies and seeing little bits of building blocks that link into each other. Also, we get to see him go back into hardware mode, where he builds a particle accelerator in his house. Fucking Coulson. Get to see Coulson in his prime. I love Bill Coulson. Clark Gregg. Just great. He, with Fury and Romanov, in these early movies, establish that S.H.I.E.L.D. as an organization is a force to be reckoned with. They also don't take shit from anyone, even superheroes, it is funny that he threatens Stark not to leave so distinctly and then immediately leaves him unattended, clearly because Mjolnir is just shown up, and I get it, like he's a fanboy at heart, but it's just... Is this movie worth a 4K purchase? I think so. I definitely am happy that I have this in 4K. It suits my TV really well. I want an even better TV to just up the level of HDR and clarity that I could have, but my TV is not too bad right now. Honestly, the cinematography is fantastic. This, again, Matthew Libatique is the reason why these movies have the established look that they do. Personally, I think a major factor for any film in 4K is the cinematography and the VFX. That's for me anyway. That's what I look for in a VFX movie. If the cinematography is great, or there's some complex, intricate VFX going on, I'm down. That's my jam. That's where you get your movie sakuga, if you know that term, if you're familiar, if you're cultured. The Monaco scene is a particularly good one for seeing an incredible bit of CGI with the cars being flipped over each other when he whips them. There are moments where I'm just like, I can't really tell if that's fake or real. I know parts of it are fake, but it's really difficult for me to discern which parts are and which parts aren't. That's usually the telltale sign of some great VFX. The Mark V, though, with its chrome body, I do think it kind of looks a bit dated because the chrome in it is not as reflective as some of the later versions of the Iron Man's VFX, but it doesn't really bother me that much. But it is the one that I look at the most and I go, yeah, I don't know. It does look amazing when he's actually holding the whip and ducking underneath. The mocap is fantastic, and the battle damage looks wild. It's great. And then of course there's the final fight scene towards the end where Rhodey and the drones are just kicking off, and Peter Parker's like almost getting shot, and there's all this like wild minigun fire, and then you end up with that huge last stand inside that garden area with just intense gunfire and repulsor blast here, there, and everywhere. I love that scene, especially the beautiful Japanese cherry blossom coming through in between them, right next to the little brook, like running through their feet. It looks so good, so tasty. I definitely would recommend it. I highly recommend this to people to watch. I think you'd love it. It's a great film to watch itself. I really enjoy it. If you love character development, you think character is first, then you should understand that. Then you'll also love watching this movie as well. And if you don't, if you just like Iron Man going pew pew pew, then I would say wait till Iron Man 3, but I don't think that's quite the same either. I think Iron Man 3 is kind of a bit of the same as Iron Man 2, to be honest. But then there's the Avengers coming up, so I can't wait for that. I got Thor next. I wonder what that's going to be like. Anyway, yeah, so next week I should be able to get my review out for Thor. Good to see Anthony Hopkins again. I recently did a review for Wonder Woman 1984. Definitely check that out if you can. Please leave a comment if you've got anything to say about what you think about the movies. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. So anyway, thanks for the likes, love to the subs, and I'll see you guys next time. Much love.